Hey guys, this is Dan Wowak or Cold Cracker Bushcraft. So today what I wanted to do was use what we created in the last video, and that was our pot hanger, to make a perfect cup of bush coffee. So how do you make a perfect cup of bush coffee? Well, this actually came from Morris Kahansky. I read about this, and this is how he makes his coffee. And I always carried instant coffee with me, or hot chocolate, something like that. And when I started to get into a little bit more traditional type camping and woodcrafting, I thought, well, this isn't gonna work. How would I just carry regular coffee? And I saw online, and I read about straining out your coffee over a leaf and all these different methods, and I just couldn't get into it. It was a mess, and grinds were everywhere. But doing it this way, when we're all done, you're not gonna have any grinds in your coffee. And number two, this is going to be absolutely a spectacular cup of coffee because you can drink it black. There's no bitterness. You can use cheap coffee or expensive coffee. Either way, it's going to come out the same, and it's going to taste good. And I was never a black coffee drinker. I always added some type of sweetener and cream. But ever since doing it this way, when I'm out in the woods, black coffee for me. So how do we do this? Well, I took my bush pot, and it's about 3/4 of the way full. Okay? And then I just carry a small container with some coffee grinds in, and this is just bottom shelf coffee. You're going to want to put probably about a tablespoon of grinds in for every cup of coffee you don't make, 8-ounce cup. I eyeball it every time, so it's never really the same. How I do this with my bush pot, and it comes out just about the same every time, is if it's about a quarter way full to almost full, I take my coffee grinds, and you want to make sure this is cold water. So we're starting with cold water. Let's get that out of the way. Cold water in our bush pot, regular coffee grinds. Just sprinkle it on top. So I usually sprinkle this on until the entire top is filled, okay? To the point that the coffee is just going to be floating on top, and then I just add a little bit more. Okay? Super easy. If you want a little bit stronger, add a little bit more. That's all there is to it. We don't do anything to this. So I'm going to set this off to the side, not mixing it up, letting them grinds just float on the top for right now. So now I have all my fire material here. We're going to start a fire. I have some fat wood. There we go. So we'll get this started. And we're going to take our coffee with our pot hanger that we made, our pond suspension system, and we're going to hang this over, okay? Because we want to boil this water. Again, I didn't mix them grinds yet. So I just set my coffee on top, and I'm going to build up this fire as we go. It rained last night, so there's a little bit of dampness, but we should have a pretty quick boil. Let's take our time and build our fire lay. So as that heats up, pardon the smoke, can't control that. What we're actually doing here is when this starts to boil, the boiling action is going to infuse the coffee flavor and all the oils from the coffee bean into our water. So we don't have to do anything. We don't have to agitate it, percolate it, anything like that. We're going to let the natural boiling process take care of that. So we just want to get these flames up as this goes. See all that smoke coming off. Okay, so that fire is going to build up. I'm going to let the film roll a little bit, and I'll show a little bit of footage. All these coffee grinds are going to do is they're going to start to soak down and boil up. Once we get a boiling action here, we have to watch so it doesn't overboil. And this is where the trick comes in. We don't want to overboil this. We're only going to boil it for 1 minute. You can time it or just estimate it. You don't want to boil it much more than that. If you do, what's going to happen is you're going to start to get the bitterness of the coffee. If you leave it off for 1 minute, for some reason, we don't get any bitterness. So I could put the lid on to speed this process up, but I'm not going to do that because I want you guys to be able to see once it starts boiling. This is actually going to foam up real quickly and overboil, so we need to keep an eye on this when we're making this cup of coffee. Okay, so the edges of our coffee are starting to, you can see bubbles coming up, so we're starting to get to that boil. This is when you need to watch it the most, because what might happen here is if you're not watching it, it's going to bubble up real quick, like I said, and it's going to overboil, and we don't want that to happen because we're going to lose a lot of our grinds and things like that. So we just need to start to watch it. You're going to see the edges start to boil, just like a normal, if we were boiling our normal water, and then you're going to see them bubbles start to come up in the middle. But because them coffee grinds are on top, sometimes it's a little bit hidden, and it'll go real quick. So we just need to keep an eye on this. Okay, so it's starting to bubble, and I know this is going to get up close to the rim, so I'm going to just watch that. So we want to go right now about a minute of an agitated boil, a good rolling boil, and you see how quick that comes up. And this is the good thing about a system like this. I can hold this out here and regulate this heat. So I'm just letting that boil. Boil, boil, boil. Raise it up. Keep that thing at a rolling boil. About 15 more seconds and we'll pull it off. And again, I'm just estimating around a minute. You can time it if you want. You can go a little under, you can go a little over. Not much more though. All right, let's pull this off and set it off to the side. I'm going to reposition the camera and talk about the next step of this perfect cup of coffee. Okay, so here's the coffee, and we just took that off. This didn't sit long at all. I just repositioned the camera. What you want to do now is, if you had a water bottle, you want to save a little bit of that water. I'm just going to use my flask here. Cold water. All we want to do from a height is pour this in. Now, this pouring action drives the water down and actually acts as if a funnel. If you ever see how a funnel works, when it sucks everything through, it's going to do that same action, and it's going to suck the grinds right to the bottom. And that's going to eliminate us from having grinds in our coffee. So you want to do this at about height, where I'm at right now. And you don't have to add a lot, just a little bit. And what that's going to do again is suck them grinds right to the bottom. So I'm going to take my cup off of here. I'm going to show you guys how this looks. So just looking at this now, you can see some of them oils from the coffee that were released. There might be, I see one grind, that's it. So I'm going to take my cup here, dip it in, and as you can see when I pour it out, no grinds. Okay, now this cup of coffee for sure is going to be good. And you see how I'm actually scooping it out? Now you could pour it out, you just got to be careful because them grinds settle to the bottom. Okay, but this is actually going to be spectacular. No grinds in this. You're not going to have any bitterness. It's a great cup of coffee. So this was Dan Wowak with Cold Cracker Bushcraft. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know the first couple times I read about this, I thought, this is crazy to go through all this for a cup of coffee. But when you're around camp, relaxing and enjoying yourself, it's really not a long process. You just got to watch the boiling part. It gives you the opportunity to carry just raw coffee grinds. I'm sure you can also do this with beans and crush the beans up at camp if you'd also want to go that route. But coffee's been a staple all throughout the frontier, all the way up until modern times. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you make yourself a good pot of bush coffee. And until the next video, thanks guys.